Hey everybody, welcome back to my shop. Today we're going to be building a long overdue miter saw station. It's going to have storage in it, it's going to have stop blocks, it's going to have a fence that has a tape measure so I can make repeatable cuts without having to pull out the regular tape measure each time. So it's going to save me a lot of time and trouble in the shop. Now I'll get started by ripping down the plywood to the size that I need to make the carcasses for the cabinets. Now that I have the parts for the sides all cut, what I'll do is readjust my fence and cut the bottoms and the stretcher pieces. Now I'm measuring and marking out the toe kicks, and what I did was clamp the two sides together of the cabinet, so this way I can cut them both out at once and just save some time. I'll leave them clamped together and I'll use my jigsaw and my hand as a guide along the edge to cut a nice straight line and cut that toe kick out. Now I'll readjust my fence and I'll cut my stretcher pieces for the back and tops of the carcasses. Now for the joinery of the cabinet carcasses, we're going to use pocket screws. Now even though it's shop furniture, I like to have the fasteners hidden for this because it's not going to be painted. But if you are doing this and you did want to do it in a rush and you were going to paint it, then you could just use regular butt joints and screw it together and save some time. Now I'm ready for some assembly, so what I did was clamp a spacer block to the bottom. That's the exact width of the toe kick. It actually happens to also be one of the side braces. So clamping this to the bottom ensures that when I put this bottom shelf in, on both sides, it's going to be exactly where I need it to be and level. I flip the cabinet on its back, I'll put the other side up, and I'll reinstall my spacer block and attach it in the same manner. Once I have the bottom installed, now I can install the top and bottom back braces. This not only is going to give stability and strength to the cabinet, but it's also going to help keep it square. Now since this is just a shop furniture project, I'm not putting a solid back on these cabinets. So what I'm doing is putting a back bottom brace on. Not only adds stability and strength to the cabinet, but also so nothing will roll out of the back of the bottom shelf. The final part of the assembly of these carcasses is going to be a front stabilizer brace. What that's going to do, square it up, and it's going to support the top shelf. That's going to be part of the table of the miter saw station, connecting all these cabinets together. Now I need to take a measurement here to recess the miter saw between the cabinets and add 3/4 of an inch so that it's level with the table base. Now I'll transfer those measurements over to the sides of the cabinet where the miter saw is going to sit between, and I'll install cleats on both sides to install that shelf. Now a 3/4 inch plywood shelf would be sufficient for this, but this miter saw is heavy, so I am installing some additional cross braces just to give it a little added strength and support. And now I'll install the miter saw shelf, making sure that I keep everything tight together and flush with the front. Now I can drop the miter saw in place and make sure that I have the full swing from side to side on my 45-degree cuts without any interference. Now back at the table saw, I can rip a piece of 3/4 inch plywood for the top of the cabinets here. That's going to support the work pieces and tie all these cabinets together. Now that I have the miter saw in place, I can actually use it to cross cut the tops for the cabinets. And now I'll line up the tops, make sure it sits flush with the miter saw top, and secure everything with screws. Now the assembly is done, I need to move on to making the fence. This is going to house the stop block system. I've clamped the two pieces of the fence together. We have the fence itself and the stabilizer piece, which is a base that's going to get screwed to the table. Now I'm pre-drilling 1/8-inch holes to screw the aluminum track for the stop block system into the top of my fence. And now you can see how that's going to sit, and I have to start working on the longer fence for the other side. To ensure that the miter saw fence stays straight with the pre-made fence that I have, I need to clamp a level, a 6-foot level in this case for the long side, to make it extremely straight. Clamp that down, and then I'll secure everything once I have it completely flush.
Alright guys, so now that everything is pretty much assembled here, what I need to do, you see I installed on the fences that I made this track stop kit. That has these stop blocks. There's two different kinds of stop blocks. There's a production stop and there's a swing stop. I didn't put the swing stop on there yet, but I'm going to get to that in a minute. But first what I need to do is install these self-adhesive tapes that sit inside these tracks here so I can get accurate measurements when I'm cutting my material to length. So we're going to install those right now.
First thing I need to do before I install the tape is mark out a measurement on the fence so that I have a reference point of where this is going to sit from the saw blade to the fence. Once I have that measurement, then I can transfer over the tape measure onto the track. It has these little grooves where it actually sits in, so it helps you kind of line it up. Now that I have the tape measure installed on both tracks of the short and long fence, I want to go ahead and give it an accuracy cut test. And now I'll just go ahead and check the cut, and the measurement is absolutely dead on. And now I can start to load it up with some tools here and get these things out of my way.
Okay guys, well that's it for this week's project. I'm kind of undecided of what finish I'm going to use on this. If I do a finish at all, it is shop furniture and it is going to get used a lot. I'm probably going to go with a wipe-on oil varathane. 3 coats of that, lightly sanded between each coat just to give it some protection. In this video in particular, I didn't have enough time to, what I'm going to do is make drawers on top. So it's going to have a big drawer here and then a small door on the bottom underneath that. Just enough space where I can get a lot of screws and hand planes and things like that inside the drawer and keep, you can see the big stuff underneath. In between here, underneath the miter saw, I have the shop vac connected. And you heard when I was turning it on, the vacuum was turning on automatic. I have one of those eye socket vacuum tools that turns on the vacuum when the miter saw gets turned on, and then it runs for an additional 5 to 10 seconds after, clean up any residual dust. I have a full 3 feet and 2 inches on this side from the blade to the end for cutting capacity, and on this side I got a full 7 feet from the saw blade to the end. So the total length of this came out to, I think it was 122.5. Let's just get a quick measurement here. 122. So each one of these cabinets is 24 inches in width, and the height, I tried to make it as comfortable as possible. This way I don't have to really hunch over the miter saw when I'm making the cuts. So what I did was made it a total of 34.25 inches, and what that also gives me is an additional work surface because I made it the height of my workbench. So now if I'm putting together large face frames or I need to make a cut on something, I can just place it across here and it's going to be perfectly level when I make that cut. So plenty of storage, and the repeatability of the stop blocks here. There's a production stop here that's rigid, it doesn't move at all, and this one flips out of the way so that in the event that I am cutting something up to this stop block, I can cut it there, and then I need, after that I make like 4 or 5 cuts on that one, I need it out of the way. I have this set up, say to 40 inches. This slides right up out of the way like this, swing it out of the way, and I can run it up there and make my cut. Alright guys, so I hope you guys enjoyed this. What I'm going to do is probably in the next video, when I finish this thing off, I'm going to edge band this with some solid red oak, and then we'll probably put the finish on it after that. But right now it's in production mode, it's ready to go, I'm ready to use it. So I got my garbage can underneath, plenty of room for that, and plenty of storage. So now I'm just going to order some sliding drawer tracks and get the drawers done maybe next week and work on the doors. Then we can throw the finish on. And then we'll wrap this up. We can start on that barn door. Now I'll have the stop blocks and make my repetitive cuts so everything comes out nice, perfect, square, and all the same length. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you join me next week when I finish everything off. Make sure you subscribe. There's a picture of a notification bell on the bottom of this video. Click on that. You'll get notified every time I upload a video. This way you don't miss a thing. Alright guys, I'll see you next time.